G'day all, I'm Graham Sanders and I live at Townsville, North Queensland. That's where latitude 19 crosses the east coast of Australia. I've been doing a series of videos on the local native bee species Tetragonula Hocking's Eye. In this episode, my hive design. Ever since I've shown videos of this type of hive, I've been asked, what's actually inside it? Why 4 stories? Does it work? Well, this is a hive capture that you've seen in previous videos. It works alright. This is an active hive and the bees are happily buzzing around and doing what buzzy bees like to do. So I thought I'd make another hive and show you what's actually in this hive, and then if you want to build it, you can. Okay, so let's get into materials first. As you've seen from other videos, you can make them out of foam and plastic, you can. But most people are going to build out of wood, so let's discuss wood quickly. The ideal wood you want is hardwood. Wood like this stuff here. Nice, thick, can't drive a nail into that. And you have the thick wood, it evens out the temperature through its thermal mass. It holds a lot, it stops a lot of the hot heat of the day getting in. And by the time the coolness of the night comes in, that heat re-radiates out again. If you can't get wood like this, as you saw from the hive design round the corner, you get wood like that. That's still very hard. You couldn't drive a nail into that either. That's hardwood decking timber, as you've seen before. I'll just check this video's running. It is. Okay, that's also good. If this wasn't thick enough, I could always glue extra wood onto the outside, but this is more than ample for the tropics. You can see 2 pieces together would certainly make it nice and thick, but it's density. It's that density of this wood that it's saving feature, and I can build a hive out of that and the bees survive. What you don't build a hive out of is stuff like thin Meranti, thin pine, thin cedar, thin light timber. This hollowy type timber, it's got no thermal mass in it. It won't protect your hive. If you're going to build it out of pine, Meranti, cedar, these lighter timbers, build it thick. It compensates for the lightness and density of the timber. Haven't got thick, light timber, just glue 2 pieces together like that, and that will give you your thickness. Okay, timber covered. Let's build a hive, shall we? Here's my base. There it is. That's 160 by 160. But it could be 150, it could be 170. You don't have to be anal on that, but around that size has an entry hole. 13 mil, but you can be 10 mil, you can be 15 mil. No big deal on that, round that size. And you can see a couple of little lugs there. Those lugs form a very important function, because a little plate sits in there. There it is. And that plate separates this chamber from the next chamber above. What's the purpose of this chamber? Well, Hocking's Eye store their pollen near the front entrance at the bottom. This is your pollen store. And by putting this chamber on, it separates the pollen from the brood chamber. As you can see there, just separates it rather nicely. That gap can be anywhere from 10 mil to 20 mil. I think with this hive design, I think I made it 15 mil. So, perfectly good. Nice. Hang on, I'll just centre that just to make it look pretty. So, the hole there's for 2 purposes. One is to allow bees an extra access point. 2, if I ever need to get in here to clean it out or inspect the pollen for any bugs or whatever, I can just put my finger in to help pull it out, as you can see there. So there's our base. Put that down there like that. Put this on top of here like that. there it is. Now, what's the next chamber? There we go. It's a brood chamber. And it's nothing more than a square box. 160 by 160, about 120 high, gives you just under 2 litres for there. So we've got 1.5 litre storage in here, just under 2 litres here, give or take. Now that just goes on top. If you want to, you could put an extra plate here that fits snugly against the plate here, so that when you have to lift this up, everything separates cleanly. If you want to. I don't bother, but there are those that are more anal than me that like that sort of stuff. That just goes on there. Which way does that go around? One. I can't find which way does this thing go around? Oh, I think I got it upside down maybe. Let's have a look. Goes one way. There we go. That's the way. So there it is. That's the brood chamber. So what do we need after that? Yet another brood chamber. Same measurements again. If you wanted to, you could put a couple of bits of wire or a slump bar across there and there. Just a bit of ply like that, maybe across there or across there, just to help split it whenever you're separating. I don't bother because Hocking's eyes move the brood around. It also has a vent hole, anywhere from 5mm to 10mm. I think that's 7mm. Has some extra lugs too. Why does it have extra lugs? Because guess what? It's got the other brood plate. Goes that way round, that's right. Sits there like that. So, the brood plate sits there again, 10 to 20mm each side. That stops the brood going any higher. Goes on top of there like that. Now, I make these removable so that I can get into the hive. If I have to do... wait for that plane. He's gone. So I make these removable so you can get into the hive. Anyway, that's that one. Now, if you're so inclined, this is the top one and the honey super. And again, if you want to, you could put a plate here so it sits flush with the plate on top of there. So that when you separate them, it separates with minimal mess, and then you can extract your honey later. Hocking's eye will build the honey generally above the brood. Now again, I don't bother about that. I find it's perfectly okay just to lift the honey super off. But for some people, which way does that go? No, must be the other way. Must be the other way. There we go. So this sits on top of here. And there we go. That's your average beehive for me when I build it. Oh, that's a bit silly. That goes round there at the back. Silly boy. You have the vent hole at the back so the air goes in here, natural convection up, out the back of there. And of course, I'm making a mess of this. Let's try to put this back together properly. There we go. And that's the basic design of one of my hives. The advantage of it is it's modular. If I have to split the hive for any reason, I can take brood out of here or out of here and position it in another hive. The great thing about it too, that's 4 litres. So that's 1.5 litres, 2 litres, 2 litres, about 2 litres. That can be any size you like. The great thing about it for Hocking's eye is they move the brood around. So there's plenty of room during summer. They run it up the side to allow the air to flow past. Winter time, they ball it up. It allows the bees to move the brood as you see fit. Other modifications, if you so like, if you don't want a deep honey super, build yourself 2 shallow trays. And that way you can take a shallow tray off and extract the honey. But the whole purpose of the design is to emulate the hollow log, separate the pollen from the brood, from the honey, and be able to manage the hive and split it. That's the basic design.